What is up? It's G88 here, back with another video. Today's video, I'm going to be showing off another interesting piece from my collection, this one being a relatively recent acquisition of mine. This is my M42 Combat Vehicle Crewman's Mask. Pretty excited to show this one off for you guys today, as this is another kind of unique and uncommon piece from my collection that is not often talked about. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of just get into it here. So to start off here, I'll give you the history that I know of on the M42 with all the information that I can show. So yeah, let's get into this. So the M42 Combat Vehicle Crewman's Mask originally came into the light back in the late 80s, obviously when it was adopted as the M42 Combat Vehicle Crewman's Mask. It was a combat vehicle crewman's variation of the Scott XM40 protective mask. It was used in the same, it was part of the same trials, the XM40 trials that, Scott Aviation and ILC Dover and Mine City Appliances were all part of, as well as Avon. But it was part of that XM40 trials that the M42 originally derived from, where they were not just looking at replacing, the M17 with the M40, but they were also looking at replacing the M24 and the M25A1 with the XM41 and the XM42. Now, the interesting thing is the XM41 never really went anywhere. It was supposed to be aircrew version of the M40. It never really got past the experimental phase. The XM42, on the other hand, did. And it was adopted in, was it 1987 or 1988? I'm not entirely sure. If I can find the date, I will show it to you guys. I can't quite recall right off the tip of my tongue when it was adopted. I think it was either 1987 or 1988. Either way, you guys will see. And obviously, it was adopted after the Scott variation of the XM42, as the Scott XM40 ended up being the mask that won the trials. So the Scott XM42 was also chosen. Now, this made a lot of sense at the time because the whole Scott XM40, the whole XM40 project in general was to make a mask that was low risk, mainly due to possible constraints with adopting a new mask. You see with the XM29 and XM30 series protective masks, also known later on as the MCU series that the Navy and Air Force adopted, they had a bunch of problems with that mask related to development and budget constraints. So the Army ended up just tossing the whole project away because they felt that they were kind of in over their head on it, and they just did not want to go any further with the project, as I can only assume it was probably because of budget constraints. If I can find any information on that, I will put that up on screen here. But that went on to the XM40 project, which was a minimal risk design mask that took very few new design feats. It was taking all tried and true trusted development ideas, and then it was also supposed to be easy to produce. It wasn't going to be that hard to retool the factories and change over to this new platform of mask. It wasn't high risk. It was a low risk design. That's what the XM40 series was supposed to be. Just kind of ironic, as soon after the adoption, there a bunch of problems happened, but we're not there yet in the timeline here. So this mask, the XM40 and the XM42 was adopted as the M40 and M42 in I believe 1987. Again, if I'm wrong, I have already put font over the screen saying, "Hey, GL88, you're a dumbass. It's not that date." So, future editor me will fix all of my goddamn stupid things that I say. Okay, so this mask was adopted right around then. Production was supposed to start in 1988, as far as I'm aware. Were any produced in 1988? I have no idea. With the M40, so I know for the fact M40s were made. So if you don't know the whole thing with the M40 and M42 series protective masks early on, the initial contractor, Scott Aviation, they had huge problems with procuring these face pieces. They I'm not necessarily sure what it was, but they had a bunch of different problems early on with making face blanks, and all the ones that they did produce were of very poor quality. They were all very varying in quality control and all very poor quality, the face pieces. And they were supposed to make, I believe it was 300,000 masks by 1990. And by 1990, they had only produced, if I recall correctly, the specific number was 3,358 M40 face blanks. So that is only just over 3,000 complete masks that were made between the adoption date and 1990. And they were supposed to make 300,000. That is like just over 1% of the total amount of masks that were supposed to be produced. Now, as you can assume, the United States government was pissed at Scott Aviation, and they pretty much defaulted from the contracting. They were booted off. Now, you see, if I recall correctly, also in 1988, the Mine Safety Appliances and Corporation and ILC Dover were also contracted to make M40s. You know, the two of the other contractors from the XM40 trials, they were also contracted to make face pieces. Only problem was they had to retool their factories to produce the new masks, so they could not immediately start producing M40s and M42s. So they had to wait a few years to produce them. You know, they had to retool all their factories and get everything ready to make the masks. So by 1990, the only M40s in existence were the 3,358 Scott examples that were produced. Which obviously, by the time of Desert Storm, meant that there were virtually none available to issue, although some M40s were issued. You see, if I recall correctly, it was exactly 400 examples of small-sized M40s were actually issued during Desert Storm. They were all issued to civilians and soldiers that could not fit a normal M17 face piece. If they had too much of problems fitting the face piece, they were issued a small M40. Now, of course, that'd be a Scott M40 because the only ones that ever existed at that point were the 3,358 Scott made M40s. Now, they still had problems after the end of Desert Storm there, and they were really starting to put the pressure on the government to, procure M40s, as it had been like, let's see, at that point, what, 3 years pretty much since the initial adoption of the mask, and there was virtually no production of the M40 and M42. They had like none available. The M42 wasn't even available for limited issue in Desert Storm. They had no examples on hand to issue during Desert Storm. So they had 400 small M40s they were able to issue to soldiers on a limited basis in Desert Storm, but they had no M42s. Now, from reading these reports, I don't know if that means there were no M42s in existence, or if the actual amount of M42s produced was just such a small margin that it didn't even like it wasn't even like a considerable amount in any aspect. Like, maybe like only a couple hundred masks. I don't know. They could have made none. There could be a couple hundred out there. I don't know. All I know is that it was such a small margin that none were available for issue during Desert Storm. Now, after Desert Storm was finally when they Mine Safety Appliances and ILC Dover were able to start making face pieces. The initial deliveries for the M40 face blanks were in, if I recall correctly, June 1991 for Mine Safety Appliances, and September 1991 for ILC Dover. And again, if I'm wrong, I will, correct that. But that's not really, I guess, the thing that I'm talking about here. That's for my separate video on when I make a video on the M40. Point being, the M40 did not actually see any production really at all until late 1991. The M42 was delayed further after the M40's initial production there in 1991. The initial deliveries might have started for the M40 in June and September of 1991, but no M42s started being delivered up until December 1991. So no M42s were even assembled and delivered to the Army in any quantity at all by MSA or ILC Dover until December of 1991. So, of course, this means that there was quite a shortage of masks at the time. But the masks finally started production, like full-scale production, in 1992, as far as I'm aware. That was for the M40 anyways. Full-scale production of the M40 and M42 was supposed to be on full swing by March of 1992. And as far as I'm aware, that's how it played out. It did enter full-scale production in March of 1992. But they were continued producing these M42s up until early 1994. The M42A1 was adopted to replace the original M42 in October of 1993, as far as I'm aware. That's when the national stock number was filed, anyways. So in October 1993, they adopted the M42A1. Now you may be wondering, what's the difference between the M42 and the M42A1? The M42 has the hose permanently attached to the facepiece. That is the biggest difference between the M42 and the M42A1. It still has the integrated microphone assembly like on the MCU2AP. Still has the early style canister carrier and pretty much all the same accessories. The only difference on the M42A1 is that the hose is detachable. It just uses a screw thread. On these original M42s, they just use a clamp. They use like a hose clamp, and it tension fits the hose permanently to the facepiece, so it's not disassemblable. It's just permanently fixed to the mask. The M42A1 adopted the screw thread canister hose, the screw thread canister hose. I apologize. And the M42A1 was produced from right about early 1994 to 1995, when the M42A2 was adopted in May 1995 to replace both the M42 and M42A1, both in production and general issue, as far as I'm aware. So obviously, this means that the M42 and the M42A1 were not produced for that long. You see, the total production of M42 and M42A1 protective masks through the 1995 year was 128,370 M42 and M42A1 combat vehicle crewman masks. That is the total of both masks combined. So between the M42 and the M42A1, there is only 128,370 that I'm aware of. There could be a little bit more, there could be a few thousand more masks. I'm not entirely sure. But that is the total production through 1995. Based on the report that I read, no M42s were produced in 1996. And in 1997, they were already producing the M42A2 and replacing it in general issue. So I can only assume that that is pretty much the total production of the M42 and M42A1 is 128,370 masks. Even if you split that in two, that's pretty much only like 64,000 masks of each type. So if you were to split the production 50-50 between the M42 and M42A1, that's only like 64,000 masks. For comparison, through the 1995 year, there was over 1 million M40s and M40A1s produced. So as you can see, the production was quite different between those. Production of the original M42 would have been between December 1991 and late 1993. So that is roughly 2 years of production. And the M42A1 would have been produced from about early 1994 through 1995, so pretty much 2 years of production once again. So each of these masks have about 2 years of production. No idea what the total production statistics would be between the two, although guessing from how the M42 is even rarer than the M42A1 to see, I can possibly only assume that the original M42 is probably made in lesser quantities than the M42A1, which would also make sense because the M42A1 has a detachable hose, so it's cheaper and faster to produce. The M42A1 also has a silicone oral nasal cup. I forgot to mention that earlier. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all I wanted to mention here related to the history of this mask. It pretty much was issued through the mid to late 90s, the M42, but it started to be replaced in the late 90s by the M42A2. Both in production and general issue, like I said. It also was replacing the M42A1. If I recall correctly, there were a few reasons that they did this. I know the one for sure was that it was cheaper to produce because the M42A2 is just an M40A1 face blank. It is identical. The only difference is that it comes with different accessories, like a clip-on microphone and shit, and a screw-on canister thread, or, hose. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about there about the history of the M42. So I will get into the accessories and the rest of the shit. So starting off here, I'll show you the accessories. Of course, we got the waterproofing bag, the M1 waterproofing bag, nothing special about it. Got the operator's manual here, TM3 4240 310-2, August 1988 edition. As you can see, it's kind of water damaged and stained and covered in grease. Got a bunch of different depictions of crap in here and how to use the mask, of course. Got actually corrections to the manual right here separately that are stapled together. These are later adaptations of the technical manual, fixing incorrect information in the manual. This has both the correction 1 and 2 with it, from September 1989 and May 1991, respectively. As you can see, they're kind of mangled a bit here, but it has just updated information that would replace some of the information in the technical manual. You're supposed to insert these into the manual, but a lot of the times they would just staple the little pamphlets together and issue it with the manual instead of even going through the time of putting the new pages in. So yeah. Got the M8 chemical detection paper. This is an optional accessory that would come with it. It's just a chemical detector paper that changes color based on certain chemicals, and then you can figure out what chemical is in the vicinity based on that. Have the clear outserts here in the original packaging. You can see the date of February 1992 there. These came with this mask. You can tell they're covered in sand because this mask was issued. The whole mask and the carrier, everything was covered in like fine sand granules when I got it. And the carrier also has issue markings on it, so I have no idea where this was issued. Maybe this saw service overseas. I have no idea. But yeah, getting that out of the way. You have the M258A1 personal decontamination kit with all the packets still inside. If I can open it up, there's the inside of the container. You can see it has both the packets in there, the decon wipes. Cool little thing to note, I guess. If I can close it, Jesus. Wearing big-ass gloves, so good luck, I guess. And I guess going over the carrier here, and then we'll get to the mask. So here's the carrier. Of course, this is the early style carrier for the M40 and M42. It's the hard shell kind. It's the nylon carrier with the plastic reinforcements. As you can see, it's pretty knackered. She's seen some shit. It's got a bunch of scuffs on it, some discoloration, some stains. You can see the bottom here where the canister coupling would be for the tank crewman's oxygen system. You just pull this up and then the adapter would be sitting right there. I will put up a picture there of that to show you off how that would work. And that would just, it would couple into the tank's oxygen supply system so that you could breathe effortlessly while in the vehicle. And then, of course, it had a quick detach system, so if you went to bail or get out of the tank, it would disconnect, and then it would just be the filter attached to the canister sling, filtering the air outside. So you'd have to breathe manually once again. But you could still breathe in a contaminated environment without worries of being exposed to gas. You got the pocket right here for the M258 decontamination kit. You can see that the issue tag here has a card inserted in there, and you can see that it was issued to a Heberler. Kind of interesting. I don't know who Heberler was, but this is his M42. Who knows what vehicle he was in? Maybe he was in an Abrams or a Bradley. I guess we'll never know. You can see the back of the carrier here with the straps, you know, nothing special really. There isn't really anything else to note on the outside of the carrier, I do believe, so. Peeling the flap open here, you can see the inside of the carrier. You can see the pocket on the left here for the M1 waterproofing bag and ABC M8 chemical detection paper. You can see these two pockets here early on, as far as I'm aware, you could store wherever the hell you wanted in there. Like, you could store the manual here or the manual here. I store the manual here because it's the smaller pocket, and then I store the outserts in this pocket right here. And then you have the pocket, or the sling, the pouch right here for the canister carrier. And this just like Velcros in and into place. And then it holds the carrier in there. Because you can take the carrier out and then wear the carrier itself on its own, separately from the mask. So you don't have to have the carrier on you. You can just have like the carrier strapped to your body. And then you just have less shit on you that you have to worry about. But that's really all to mention on the inside of the carrier. So, closing that up and moving that out of the way, we'll get on to the face piece. Of course, the thing that you guys all wanted to see. So, showing off the face piece here, you can see I have all the crap on it. I have the early style sewn-in second skin hood on it. That would be period correct. I got the tinted outserts on the mask. You can see the special diaphragm assembly on here with the built-in comms lead. This just unclips, as you can see, and then you can see where it clips into on the actual mask, so you can see that. And then you have the plug that plugs into your headset on your tank crewman's helmet. That just plugs into where the microphone would go, and then it would transmit the voice from the microphone in the mask through the headset, through your push-to-talk system, through your comms, obviously. It just replaces the headset microphone with an interior microphone of the mask so you can be heard easier. You can see the outlet valve assembly here. It's dated, the outlet valve cover here is dated second week of August 1992 by Mine Safety Appliances Corporation. You can see the drinking tube there. It's the early style, of course. Peeling this up, you can see it has the white style inlet valve. It's dated November 1992. Closing that back up if I can. Ah, jeez. Goddamn gloves. Definitely not the thing to be wearing for this. You can see here the hose on the mask is dated the second week of December 1992 by Mine Safety Appliances. Maybe. I'll get some better pictures, of course, for you guys. You can see some more, things on the hood, like the drawstring and the zipper. Setting the mask down real quick and showing off the canister carrier, I'll show that to you guys. So the hose is simply just clamped to this metal or aluminum screw thread here. You can see it's made by CMP. Most of these are black. This one is just like an off gray, which is kind of interesting. But you can see the canister carrier here. It's the early style that's green. You can see the carry straps if you wanted to body carry this. Showing it off here, you can see that it's just a C2 canister in this special casing. I'm not going to try to take the casing apart because I have fucking gloves on, and that would be like a retarded clown show, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just put up pictures of what it looks like taken apart for you guys. But you can get a better look at that bayonet coupling for the oxygen system, and you can very well tell that it has been clipped into a vehicle at some point, at least. But that's really all to mention on that. I'll show you a close-up of the other side of the canister thread here. You can see it's got a rubber gasket in there. No inlet valve, because the inlet valve is actually on the inside of the mask. And you can see a rubber band covering the clamp for the hose. A lot of bloom on the hose as well. It's kind of gross, actually. But that is pretty much all to, I guess, show off on the outside of the face piece. So I will fold the hood over the mask, Jesus, and show you the interior. One other thing here as well, before I show you the interior, there's the hood chemical biological mask M40 M42 lot number 105, and you can see the national stock number right there. So folding the hood over the mask here, you can see some date stamps on here. Got the stamp right there, first week of December 1992, Mine Safety Appliances Corporation. You can see the early style head harness there. It's pretty dirty, covered in like sand and shit. It's like permanently stained. You can see the lot number and when the mask was assembled. It was assembled in 1993. You can see lot number AO40-009, so a pretty early lot number. It's probably one of the first M42s produced in 1993. Folding the harness over the mask here, you can see the interior. You have the early style nose cup, of course, because the original M42 had the early nose cup. The nose cup is dated, I think, it is dated the 4th week of November, 1992 by Mine Safety Appliances Corporation. You can see the deflector assembly for the hose right there. It's pretty much identical to the regular M40s with a few different changes to it, of course, to accommodate the hose. You can see the drinking straw and the dynamic microphone in there. You can see the sweat drainage hole and the outlet valve down there. Not much else to note about the inside of this mask. It's basically a regular M40 otherwise. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video reviewing an M42 combat vehicle crewman's mask, because it's not really something you see every day. And hopefully I was able to add some information that you guys did not know before. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I might make another video soon on how to properly carry this mask, like use the canister carrier and pack the mask and everything in the carrier. I don't know. We'll see if I get to that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and I'll see y'all later.